Assalamu alaikum. Today we'd be discussing the topic family and the state. We'd actually be discussing this by going through a question. We've had this question in May, June 2021, and the question is evaluate the view that social policies have had a positive impact on the family. It is pretty essential that we read the question a couple of times at least before we even get started. Uh, there have been many instances when the student does not give the question enough of attention, the attention it should be given, and which eventually leads to the student not understanding the question. And of course, if a student doesn't understand the question, he or she would not be able to answer it. A major issue that has been that has been faced is many students end up writing a summary to a topic. Remember, this is not especially if you want to score anywhere in the top band, you need to remind yourselves that you're sitting for a paper where there's a particular question that has been given to you and you're expected to answer that particular question. And that by no means allows you to end up writing down a summary to that particular topic. Now, before we get started, I forgot connecting the screen. Yeah. Now, the topic is family and the state. And the question, like I said, is evaluate the view that social policies have had a positive impact on the family. A 26 marker evaluative essay question. And of course, this means that you'd be expected to write down in support of this argument and you'd be expected to write down against this argument as well. To begin with, if I show you the topics that are there in the purple book, which is the authors of the book, Harlambus and Halban, published by Collins. If you'd see, you do not really have direct content that helps you understand this, answer this question. Yes, there's you could go through these topics. These are the list of the topics that are there. Yes, there's a topic under the heading childhood. I'll just show that to you as well. That says that has to do with children and the state, but then again that would just help you cater to part of this answer, not this complete the answer to this question completely. So here is the question again. Evaluate the view that social policies have had a positive impact upon the family. Now, what are social policies and what sort of social policies are we talking about? If we try understanding the question, the first and the foremost, what are social policies? The initiatives that the government takes, the policies that the government makes that could affect, in this case, in this context, that could affect family. Now, the policies that the government comes up with, of course, because we're studying sociology, different school of thoughts, different perspectives would have different stances over how the state policies affect family life. One thing's for sure, they do affect family life, and to a greater or a lesser extent. Let me give you a couple of quick examples. For example, in Pakistan, heterosexual marriages are allowed. Homosexual marriages are not allowed. There are around 30 countries in the world where homosexuality is allowed. Just because Pakistan government does not allow this, that in other words means there would be no legal homosexual marriages in Pakistan. You could take another example. We could speak about divorces. If we have a look at how divorce is defined, divorce is the legal termination of marriage. Of course, for many countries in the West, the more developed parts of the world, if we talk about getting divorced, it has to be a legal termination. That again is different from how divorces are seen and treated as in our part of the world, Pakistan. Number three, we could speak about another example. We could speak about the one-child policy that China had. Now, these policies like these, they directly or otherwise do affect family lives. Now, the question is, how do they affect them? The statement that we have over here talks about these policies having a positive impact, right? We'd have to write down about how these policies have had a positive impact, and the flip side of the coin जिसको हम लोग counter argument भी कहते हैं, जिसे हम लोग antithesis भी कहते हैं. Taking this ahead, this is the question. Again, we'd get back to this. Let me begin with the concept of the managerial state. According to Dean, in the year 2006, the role of the state in modern industrial societies involves managing the development of family groups and relationships. Now, we're talking about the state having to manage the development of family groups and relationships. In other words, what we're trying to say is the state has to have enough of involvement when it comes to family life to be able to set boundaries between what is right and what is wrong, to be able to maintain social order, to be able to bring in stability within society. But at the same time, we do not really expect the state to be involved into trivial affairs in terms of deciding what goes on within household, until there are extremes, of course. Extreme cases in extreme cases like there being abusive families. I mean, that's an exception, that's an extreme again. But typically, you do not expect families to be deciding what products to be used at home, who decides what has to be done and what not. So, in a nutshell, the state is expected to be enough involved to be able to set a boundary, to be able to draw a line between what's right and what's not, what's acceptable, what's not, the different type of families, and how we get married, how we get divorced, sexuality within families and marriage, but then not to be involved into trivial affairs. Now, you could use Dean's example over here. If you move on, if you talk about different sociological perspectives, you could give this a read. There's enough of content that you'd find to be able to write in support of this. According to this new right argument could be used in support and against of this debate both. Just I'm just showing this to you so that you could pause it later and give it a read. So is the case with the Marxist perspective. Give this one a read as well. If anyone of you needs this particular document, to do let me know. I'll just share this with you. So is the case with feminism. And this is from all of this content, the content that I'm showing you. This is from a separate book, and this again is from a third book. This book again was written by Haralambos and Halban, but this is from a separate book. This is from a different book. The book Themes and Perspectives, the 7th edition, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I believe it was the 7th edition. So if you need anything from here, you should feel free to get back to me and ask me for it, and I'll be more than happy to share it with you. So to begin with, if we speak in terms of ideas that support the idea that these policies have had a positive impact, right? Number one, family. There are certain social policies that help families perform functions more effectively. For instance, recently there have been certain laws, certain legislations that have been passed that they say facilitate females working. In other words, you could speak about how the state, in many modern industrial countries, the state has taken certain measures just through it gets easier for the family to be able to perform its roles, its functions. An example of this could again be maternity leaves. What if the state did not allow this? It's the state that decides, right? What recently there have been many countries, including our country, Pakistan, जहाँ पे आपके पास paternity leave be allowed है, right? I had shown a document, I'd rather shared a document on your group earlier that has to do with the bill that has been passed in Pakistan. So these are who decides. The state decides. It's the policies that the state comes up with. State decide करती है कि if you'd be getting a maternity leave or if you'd be getting a paternity leave. So this is again having a positive impact on the family, right? Rest, what of the content is that that I'd be discussing in the next 5-8 minutes. You'd see how the content that is there in your purple book again, under different topics, under different headings, you'd be able to find out the content that would eventually be able to help you develop these points. Of course, all of these points need to be developed, right? Again, you could speak about there being certain gender reforms. Recently in 2022, I had again shared a tiny little video, or I think it was a video or an article that I shared on your group that had to do with how there have been recent changes in the UK that have made obtaining divorce easier. Now we could again see देखिए यहाँ का जो इस topic का content है, the content for this particular topic, you'd be able to pick it up under the heading of divorce, right? It's a state that's allowing you. Or if we talk about how divorce was obtained pre 1857 to how divorce was obtained back in the 1960s and how divorce was obtained, let's say 20 years back to until recently 2022. Aapka state hai, it's the state that's facilitating you. It's a state that has been taking different steps, different measures through different social policies that the state has been trying to make obtaining divorce easier. I hope that makes sense. Taking this ahead, you could move on and you could discuss this point that we have improved child welfare, the Children Act. There are numerous, you guys can Google too. Your book has a lot of information on this as well. There have been certain laws that have been passed that have made childhood more protected within families. There have been laws passed that try to curtail neglect within families. आपके पास there have been laws passed that have tried to ensure that absent fathers end up paying for the upbringing or for the expenses of their child. All of this is eventually having a positive impact on the child, on the family. Likewise, you could take this, I mean, you could read through content, pick up content that facilitates a particular point and write it down in a separate paragraph. Again, taking this ahead, there are many countries where civil partnership has been allowed. There have been certain acts that have facilitated marriages between, let's just say, homosexual couples. In Pakistan, we might not accept them as couples, but there are many parts of the world, I guess around 30 countries, where the homosexual marriages are legal. If not homosexual marriages, same-sex marriages, then civil partnerships. All of this could be said by many that it is having a positive impact, especially for the people in the western part of the world. I'm not saying everyone, but yeah, certainly there are a chunk of people who do believe in family diversity, who do believe in acceptance, tolerance towards all. You could bring in postmodernism. Now, the content for this particular point could be again picked up under the heading of postmodernism and families, the postmodernist perspective on families. Welfare provision, again, this welfare provision point is linked to this one. Taking this ahead, you could write down about the functions perspective, you could speak about Ronald Fletcher, and you do not find, if you're not able to find content on this, let me know, I'll let you know. For instance, let me just quickly see if I could show it to you. I'm trying to keep this super short as well, but yeah, you could give this a read, or you could give this one a read. Just keep it over here for a couple of seconds. You could read through this, or later on you could just pause and read through this. This would help you understand this better. So again, this is Fletcher. Taking this ahead, again, the consensus perspective, march of progress, symmetrical family, the idea of a new man, all of this could be used. Again, remember, my dear, if you have a look at any 26 marking theme, you'd see the examiner very openly, very clearly mentions that all of this is indicative content. When I say all of this is indicative content, or in other words, I mean, you could use content from here, or alternatively, you could use anything else as well. But remember, do not just write down. Remember, one, like I said earlier, understand the question. Number two, bring in sociology. You do not have to necessarily add in a lot of sociological perspectives. It is, I'm sorry. You do not necessarily have to add in a lot of sociological references. I mean, there should be some, that's okay. But make sure whatever the point is that you're picking, you're developing it. Explain it, write down, I mean, identify a point, pick up a point, explain it, elaborate it, develop it. And towards the end of the paragraph, connect it back to the question. Write down how this has had a positive impact, right? The flip side of the argument, without any further ado, again, how if we talk about a counter argument to this content against this view, bang, you could speak about the new right perspective. I'm sure everyone does remember that the new right perspective does not promote, or if anything, the new right perspective blames the state or sees the state to be responsible for allowing family diversity, because according to the new right perspective, it is the nuclear family, the traditional, conventional nuclear family, that should be the only family farm. And the if different states or different governments, different countries are allowing or promoting family diversity according to the new right perspective, this certainly does not have a positive impact. I hope you get that point. Taking it ahead, there are many sociological commentators and otherwise. There are people who argue that the facilitation that the government has had recently over the last few decades over divorce laws, divorce acts, they're making they're making the idea that if the government keeps on making divorce or making obtaining divorce easier, this would eventually end up resulting in being problematic for the society, right? Remember हम इस positive impact का अब counter argument तैयार कर रहे हैं. We're writing down a counter argument to this, or an antithesis, right? Or how promoting welfare, again, the new right perspective again could be brought in over here. And I've shared content regarding all of this. If you need content on anything, do let me know. Again, so the new right perspective, again, how they believe that the state ends up promoting welfare dependency. What does it mean when we talk about promoting welfare dependency? The idea that if the state keeps on taking care of families by providing with taking care of families, or taking in particular, they've not been very happy about the single mothers. If the state keeps on facilitating single motherhood, if the state keeps on promoting single motherhood, that would eventually lead to more of single motherhood, which again, according to the new right perspective, is detrimental, is parasitic for the family, for the society at large. Promoting welfare dependency, अगर आप state अगर welfare का ख्याल रखती रहेगी, if the state would keep on providing to individuals, they would end up being lazy. They would not want to work and be dependent on the state. If the citizens, they end up being dependent on the state, that again is a loss to the state, loss to the treasury, loss to the money of the taxpayers. Another example, limiting family size, China's child policy. The same thing could be used in a negative manner against this view as well, how this has had a negative impact. Families not allowed to have children even if they've wanted to. Next, policing the family, or according to this view, the undue involvement that the state has in family affairs. I mean, you could Google this as well. Donzelot had written a book. You just type down "Policing the Family" by Donzelot, and you'd be able to get this on through the internet as well. But then again, it is totally okay if you do not write or use all of these references over here. Like I said, this is all indicative content. Again, the state reinforcing gender inequality, patriarchal families, feminism all the way. There are certain rules that still end up, there are certain social policies that are, again, more in favor of males as compared to females, according to many feminists. You pick up content from here under the heading of conjugal roles, or the feminist perspectives, different type of feminist perspectives. Policing failing women still burdened within the family. The idea of a dual burden, Anne Oakley, the idea of a triple shift, Duncombe and Marsden, right? Charles Murray, the new right perspective. Let me just pick this up. Yeah. Armand Danzelot, the idea of an underclass, Why isn't this working? Let me just see if it's charged enough. So yeah, the new right perspective, Murray, the idea of an underclass, Cooper dependency culture, all of this is the same thing. I mean, it comes under the same heading. Lone parenthood, we just spoke about this idea of dual burden, triple shift. So, in a nutshell, you are expected to you're expected to read through these different topics and then pick up content from these different topics to be able to write an answer on this. Let me just quickly show this to you. Uh, yeah, having a look at this examiner report, it says significantly fewer candidates answered this question than question number 4, because not many students might have prepared for this, and there's a possibility that not many students might have understood this question. Like you guys, there are many students who find this difficult, even when it's not. You find it difficult because the book that you've been referring to doesn't have a separate heading that says family and the state. Else, the content that we just discussed since the last 10, 15 minutes, it has all been it has all had to do with the content that you've already studied, with a small number of responses demonstrating a weak understanding of what social policies are, as some answers focused on socialization. See, not being able to interpret the question and then just writing down whatever you feel like writing down. Even if you've written down 8 pages, you would not get marks because you're not answering the question. Nevertheless, where candidates did understand the question, responses tended to discuss policies allowing women greater freedom, rights, right? You could go back to the first wave of feminism too, or different rights. You could talk about Sex Discrimination Act. You could talk about Equal Pay Act. How policies have contributed to family diversity. Again, like I said, the postmodernist perspective, or the idea that families today, if you, what is the person's name? Again, the idea of a monolithic image of family. Barithon. Yeah, the idea of a monolithic image of family, you could discuss that. Or how easier access to divorce has increased the divorce rate. Again, there's so much of information that you could come across, that you'll be able to come across once you go through the topic divorce. Stronger responses made some attempts to engage with feminism, like I said, or the new right perspective, whilst weaker responses tended to show limited knowledge and understanding, often relying on common sense descriptions and assertions rather than sociological material to support. Again, my dear, common sense assertions would not help you score well. And to remind you all, since I'm recording this, I just any given question today, you need to keep this in mind. Your papers are checked through the assessment objectives we have AO1, we have AO2, and we have AO3, right? AO1 is knowledge and understanding, worth 7 to 8 marks. Good knowledge, understanding of the view. Okay, so because this is uh, another marking scheme, this is a marking scheme for another question, this father question that I've picked. So you need to just keep in mind over here. I mean, ignore this fatherhood related part over here. You just need to keep in mind that AO1 ke liye you need to be able to write down worth 7 to 8 marks, 8 marks max. AO2 is interpretation and application. For this, you have 8 marks again. So see, 8 marks for knowledge and understanding, 8 marks for interpretation and application, and you have 10 marks for analysis and evaluation. Here you go. So I hope this has helped. I'd really like it if you all try attempting this question, and let me know. Once you're done attempting this question, we could keep a separate class, and I could review these answers for you as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And if there's any other topic that you need, any other very tough or specific question that you need help with, do let me know. And that's it. Take good care of yourselves. Stay happy, healthy, safe, and protected. Stay humble, spread positivity, spread smiles, and Allah Hafiz.